everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dose of Sass. I am so excited for today's episode because this is part two of a little personal style series. If you missed last week's episode, go back and listen to it honestly before this one because I think it's really helpful foundation for this. But last week's episode is a little bit on the kind of confidence and body image side of personal style, clean out your closet, kind of get your mind right before we dive into like, okay, now how do we actually refill our closet and like dress with confidence? So, for this week's episode, I have brought my friend Katie on as a guest, who is a plus size personal stylist. She is a pro at this, and like just stalking her page, I was like, oh, these are like, I know she's already answered all these questions, but we're just going to do it all in one episode because her like everything she says is so helpful. So, welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much. That was such a kind, warm, amazing introduction. I appreciate all of it. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation and kind of just have all of this in one place. I think that'll be
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. This is going to be like all of the juicy info in one place. So, the big question is like, if you listen to last week's episode and you're ready to like take the next steps in your personal style, maybe you're looking at your closet and it's feeling empty and you're ready to like dress the body that you have and whatnot, but you are feeling absolutely lost. Katie, where would we start? Like, what do we begin with?
There are so many places to start. I think that when it comes to your personal style, my whole intention, I think with my content is to support plus size people in finding their personal style and being able to find clothing that fits them, that fits what their personal style feels like in all the shopping pieces of it. And just to make the getting dressed part easier. Cause I think that sometimes it can feel really overwhelming to know where to start. Or I don't know if this has been or you've ever had this experience, Caitlin, but when you walk into your closet or you have a lot of clothes, but you're just like, I feel like I have nothing to wear, and just kind of like, where do you go from there? And so I think that I really see so much of this as a puzzle. And there are all these different puzzle pieces that I think really tie into getting to that point of feeling really great about your personal style, feeling really great in your clothing. And I think that you really touched on so much of that in the first part of this kind of two-part episode with the confidence things, with the relationship with your body, and just feeling like you have the wardrobe that feels like you to really bring all of that to life. And then so there's all these different pieces to it, but I think that when it comes to your personal style, there my intention when I'm working with my clients is always for this to feel like you. We can totally put a label on this feeling more like preppy or tailored or maximalist or minimalist, or however you might want to, however style can be defined. But I think that it has to feel so you. And I think that that's such a core part of finding your personal style is your connection with yourself. And I feel like we don't talk about that as often, but it's just knowing what feels like you, knowing what feels good on you, I think is so important. And then there's all these other pieces too, where I think that we can dive into more if you want to, colors, what colors do you really love? What does your color palette look like? Maybe shapes or silhouettes, especially maybe depending on your proportions or your body, what you're going to feel best in, what make the most sense for you, what pieces you love to wear, where do you live? I know that that plays such a huge part, even working with clients, in the US. I work with clients outside of the US too, but even just in the US, there are so many different types of climates to consider. I am in California, so there's going to be a certain way that my wardrobe looks. I'm not really going to have a lot of seasonal changes and seasonal things to, swap out or whatever. But a client in Florida, also year round, is not going to have a lot of swaps, but it's going to there are certain materials or certain layering things that we're probably not going to be able to do there versus someone on the East Coast who has four distinct seasons. There's just all these different components, and I think they're all kind of a puzzle piece. And when you bring them together, it really gives you a lot of information about again, like what to be wearing, what to shop for, what pieces are going to be great for you. And then definitely adding in the part two of what are you drawn to? Like, is there like a certain like style or a certain like look that you feel really excited about? Is there a certain like era? Is there a certain like, maybe like person whose style that you really like? I think all of those are such great information and are like really important to know, to get to that point of really finding and defining your style.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really important piece. I think you made a video about it recently that like personal style is personal style. Like
Yeah.
everyone's gonna feel different about it. And like we could have a similar body type and what you like to wear and what I like to wear could be totally different. Like
Yep.
confidence and personal style are really, really personal. And like just a caveat generally, if you're listening to this episode, like this is blanket advice and like it's really going to come down to like personal, yeah, where you live, what your job is, what you like to wear, like whatnot. But hopefully we can get some like nuggets out of this that you feel confident enough to like move forward and take some steps. So if someone's looking at their closet and feeling like really uninspired
Mm.
with the things that they have, how would you encourage someone to proceed? Do they need to like clean it all out and go on a shopping spree? Do we need to play with it? Do we need to like find some new inspo? What do you
That's a
think?
really great question. So, a couple things come to mind. A great thing to do, I think, is kind of in tandem. So, not necessarily doing like one and then the other, but maybe doing them, like having them kind of be a part of the same step of the process. I think the first thing is definitely spending some time paying attention to what you are drawn to. So, like, whether it's creating a Pinterest board, maybe it's like a folder that you have on Instagram or TikTok of like saved content of like of style that you really like. Maybe it's like from a magazine, like inspo from movies or TV or whatever it may be. But I think that paying attention to like what excites you, and it doesn't have to be anything other than just like information at this point, even if it feels random, if it feels all over the place. I think a lot of times I'll have clients like put together a Pinterest board for us to go over and they say, this is so random. I don't know what you're going to do with this. But then sometimes like an outsider's perspective looks at it and is like, oh, well, yes, I could see how you might feel like this is all over the place, but I'm also seeing these themes or I'm seeing these like consistent things or like these consistent fabrics or whatever it may be, and those can be really telling. So I think that starting there, just starting like what are you drawn to, what do you really like, look at that, and then look at your wardrobe and see how they connect. Do they connect? Do they not connect? And then the second piece that's kind of in tandem with this step, there's a closet clean out process from another stylist. Her name is Allison Bornstein. She's amazing. She had a book come out, I think, either this year or last year, like all about personal style. She's really like, I get so much value from her content. And her closet editing process essentially has you take out everything from your closet, start it in different sections. So the first section is like everything that you wear all the time. Like, what are you like always gravitating towards? What are you wearing like every week, multiple times a week, etc. And by taking it all out at once and like putting it on the bed or just kind of like having it out in front of you, you can see like, oh, I do see a pattern here. Like I'm wearing a lot of cool colors. I wear a lot of like this style of shirt. I wear a lot of this wash of denim. Like you will see patterns in that pile. And then separately doing the same thing for everything that you don't wear often. So like what are the things that I haven't worn in a really long time or the things that I'm just not feeling excited about? And you'll probably be surprised that you'll also notice some patterns there too, whether it's like, again, a color or a style, or maybe it's, like, oh, well, I just don't quite know how to style this, or I'm not sure what to do with this. Or maybe it's like, oh, I like buy a lot of patterns because I like the idea of them, but I'm not actually wearing them. So I think that that can also be helpful information. And then compare it to that style that you're drawn to and kind of like see how those things compare. And I think that like looking at the things that you wear often is going to be great information to know what already works well for you. Again, whether it's like the key pieces, the colors, etc. And then using your Pinterest board or using that like style inspo as aspirational of what you'd like to work towards. And I think that there's so many other steps to this that I think can be really helpful. Like I think once you've gone through your closet and kind of assessed what you have, I think that like identifying a color palette is going to be a great way to add some boundaries in a really helpful way to your wardrobe. Because I don't know if you've had this experience, but like as a plus size person, and who only works with plus size clients, I think a lot of times we end up in this situation because of the often lack of access and availability of plus size clothing, where you will see something that you like, that you feel like, oh, I'm really into that. I like the color. I think that's really cute. And you buy that individual piece, but you're not necessarily thinking about how it works with your whole wardrobe as a whole. And I think that's often also because we're not used to being able to be selective as plus size people with the things that we're able to buy that come in our size that we can try on in store. So it's like, take what you can get, even if it doesn't fit 100% the way that you want it to, where it's not like 100% you, it's there, it's available. And then we kind of end up with this like random assortment of clothing pieces that can feel really hard to style and know what to do with. So I think that like the closet editing can be really helpful for that. The color palette can be a really helpful way to say, okay, if my wardrobe follows a color palette, then everything is going to easily work together, and it's going to be feel like so much easier to mix and match pieces when I don't have to think about, are these colors going to go together? So I think like color palette is a great one. I do think, again, like, knowing information about your body and proportions and like what silhouettes are going to work great for that is also really important. So I do this personalized style guide for all my clients before we start that really dives into a lot of these things, because I think those kind of key parts of your style are important to know. And then once you have a lot of those puzzle pieces, you can say, oh, now I know better what I'm looking for. And I know kind of like the outfits that I can be putting together using some of these key items, and really like work from there. I think it's really about having a strategy. It's about like kind of knowing like what you're looking for and what's going to be the strategy for how you fill your wardrobe and how you like shop and how you're like putting outfits together.
There's so much that goes into it. And I think
Yeah.
what's cool about your content too is like explaining why you're picking pieces instead of just like, because a lot of times you can be like, oh, that's really cute, but I would have never, I would have never thought to put those two items together. And then like explaining the thought process behind that can allow somebody else to go like, oh, that makes sense. Or like, I was kind of thinking about something like that, but I didn't know why or whatever. I want to ask about color because, like getting your colors done, color analysis, like very
Hmm.
popular right now. I have not gotten my colors done, mostly because I feel pretty confident in the colors that I like gravitate towards, like to wear, whatever. And like, I don't really want to mess with them. Like, I'm like,
Yeah,
I have some surprises, but honestly, like it probably, if there's a color I don't wear right now that fits in my palette, like the chances of me wearing it is probably pretty slim anyway. Do you think
totally.
that people like need to get their colors done? Do you think it's like more helpful or more like challenging for someone? Do they like, is it, I feel like for me, it might feel hindering in ways. Like
Mhm.
if suddenly I discover that according to color analysis, my favorite color blue doesn't actually look perfect on my skin tone, like that might be frustrating.
Hmm.
I think there's some room to kind of take it and leave it. But what are your thoughts on color analysis?
Yeah, I know color analysis has been everywhere. And it's so funny. Like when I've shared videos or like content around color and color analysis, people are like, wait, but like I love wearing all black and black is not a part of my color palette. So I think that your thoughts are incredibly like a lot of people are having similar thoughts about it too. My thing about color analysis is I do think that it is helpful information to have. I don't think it needs to be the basis of everything. I don't think you need to get your colors done and then throw out everything that isn't a part of that color palette. I think it can be interesting to know because again, talking about personal style, like the personal part of it, I think that like our bodies have this way of like giving us a lot of that information. So like our coloring in our color palette is one of those. And I know I've mentioned like shape and silhouette is another aspect of it. Like that's another piece of it. I think that there are certain things that like sometimes if we feel like we're fighting against them, it's going to feel like there's like friction in us getting dressed and putting something together. But if we can work with what works, that can be a really great, like that can feel really harmonious and just flow really well. So when it comes to color analysis, I think that like knowing can plant some seeds just to know, oh, these colors do work really well for me. I think that sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you see somebody wearing something and it just looks good on them for like no particular reason. It's like, wow, that just like they look really, really good in that. There's just something about that that looks really good on them. And I think a lot of times it's the color, if not like the shape of it or something like that. But I think a lot of times when something just looks really good on somebody, it's often their color, because I know when I put on certain colors that are not my colors, they just not only do they not do anything for my like skin or my hair or my eyes or whatever, they almost do the opposite. Like, so for me, I am a cool toned person. Like I'm like a cool like winter or like a soft winter palette. Basically like yellow undertones are not going to work well for me. And like I love the color yellow. So, but I just know now that like when I wear like a mustard yellow top or something, it's not going to do much for me. Like honestly, it usually makes me look like sick. Like I just like look like not like not well. But if I put on like a jewel toned something, like it makes my features glow. Like they really just like come to life. So that's helpful information for me to have. And I think it's like it can be a starting point. I have never gotten my colors done in person. I've used there's a website called colorwise.me and I use that personally. I use it for my clients. Again, I think it's a great starting point. It does not have to be the end all be all, but I think a lot of times what ends up happening is we'll take certain colors from their suggested color palette and work those into other colors that they already know and love. So like I usually create a color palette for clients that's anywhere from like maybe like 5 or 6 to 8 or 9 colors. Not to be too overwhelming, but just enough to have like some neutrals, some like other pops of colors, you know, like enough variety to have variety when you want to, or keep it simple when you want to. And it's typically made up of colors that they already wear and love, and then also some colors from their color analysis that are going to be great. And I think that the other aspect of color analysis is it's really makes the biggest difference when it's up against your face. So it's just like a top, a scarf, like, you know, something that like earrings, something that's going to be like right up against your face is going to make the biggest difference. But if you have a similar color palette to mine and you know that you have to like cool undertones are going to be your best friends. So like the blues, the greens, the purples, but you love orange, maybe like there are other ways to bring orange in. We could do like an orange bottom. We could do like an orange shoe or a sock or like accessory or something like that. So there are lots of ways to make it work. And I guess my like TLDR answer to color analysis is like, be curious about it, see if it's information that's helpful to you, but it does not have to be the end all be all to what your colors are in your wardrobe. Like you very much get to decide how much of a part that plays.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it can be helpful, but it doesn't have to be like strict rules. When it comes to like plus size personal style specifically and like working with clients, how often do you encourage them to like try new styles, like step out of their comfort zone versus like stick with what they like? Is there like easy baby steps to trying new styles if someone's feeling really like stuck with their closet? Do they need to go, complete 180 and try something completely different? Or can they just add like 1 to 2 things here and there?
I think that like honoring where you are and then finding little ways to like to take baby steps to get there, I think is really a great approach. You don't have to go from wearing oversized clothing to bodycon overnight. You don't have to go from wearing tunics to crop tops overnight. I think that like starting small and like making sure that you feel like you're in a good place to get there. I think there's a difference between I feel like this feels way outside of my comfort zone and this is new, but I'm ready for it. And I think that when you feel ready, it's probably going to be such a better experience for you to be able to actually understand, okay, does this feel like me? Does this feel like something I want to be a part of my personal style? And really be able to know that versus this was just so different that like I'm just too uncomfortable to even know if this is something that I would like or not.
A long time ago, before I was really like confidently dressing and like comfortable in my body, I would wear like really flowy, shapeless dresses and like things that had like pretty like sleeves to the elbow, like kind of didn't touch me anywhere. And that's what I felt like most comfortable and confident in because I was like, you're not seeing my body shape. Nothing's happening here. And then as I started to get a little bit more comfortable with my body, I was like, you know what? Maybe I do want to like accentuate my waist a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I do like actually like these things that are quote unquote more flattering, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
like then it almost kind of like went back again. I'm like, actually, I do like the flowy dress, but for a different reason now. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
comfy and it doesn't touch me at all. And yeah, it's shapeless and I'm kind of okay with that. Like it can ebb and flow and the meaning behind it can change. And I think that's really fun to explore as well. I went through a phase where I really liked bodycon dresses and I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I love feeling really comfortable and confident in this. And then I went, that's not like always super comfortable or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that's fine too. And I think allowing that to happen and just kind of like staying in touch with your mindset around those things is really helpful. I think too, yeah, like challenging those. There's so many made up rules about plus size style and
Oh
like
yeah.
you can and can't wear. I tried this dress on that had horizontal stripes and I got an earful from the internet about it.
Wow.
You should never wear horizontal stripes. Plus size people should like that's like plus size fashion 101. And I'm like, I actually think this dress looks really good. And like, yeah, technically, whatever it widens me or makes me look bigger. And I was like, honestly, I actually don't think it does. And like, I don't think vertical stripes would look great on this. So like, no thanks. And like, if you want to add a belt in the middle to like kind of break up the pattern, go for it. But also you don't have to. And like people
Yeah.
lost their mind about that. But like, do what works. If you don't like wearing horizontal stripes, don't wear horizontal stripes. But like, know that you can if you wanted to.
Yeah. It's okay to not like for your goal in getting dressed is to not be to make your body look as small as possible or to make it look like manipulate, like what your body looks like to other people. I actually had this thought recently about how much of my personal style am I putting on for other people in terms of like what other people are seeing me wear and how much of it is actually me being like I feel really really good in this and this makes me feel really really good, and I think that's a really important like thing to ask ourselves and to understand is am I not wearing this because of what I think someone else is going to experience when they see me wearing it, and why is that more important than what feels authentically me and what feels authentically myself, and then there's all those other layers of like the fear of us looking like a little bit bigger or like, I don't know, like there's just like so much wrapped into that. And I feel like it's been around for so long and it totally makes sense. And I really loved what you said too about the journey of it, like of you trying different clothes on and different like pieces and kind of figuring out what works for you and why you like certain things. I think you asking yourself those questions and staying curious is so important. And that's such an important piece of all of this when it comes to your personal style is like asking yourself, do I like this? What is it that I like? What is it that I don't like? What's working, etc. Because all that information is going to be so helpful if you especially have been plus size for a majority of your life, especially like middle school, high school, college, like into adulthood. I think like giving yourself some grace for that journey that you just described is so important because like we're kind of late bloomers in being able to like put these pieces together, like our like friends who were able to really like explore their style and like get creative with it and had all these fashion phases, through all those decades, all those years of their lives. Like we're kind of just starting to have some ability to do that, and there's like so many plus size people who still like don't have access to clothing options to do that, but like slowly we're getting there. And so if it's feeling like it's taking some time and you're trying a lot of different things, like again, patience and grace with yourself because like this is all part of the process and we're like it's important pieces of it, it's like getting to know yourself, getting to know this part of yourself, and it can definitely take some time to some trial and error, but I don't even know if it's considered error. I think it's learning, it's all information.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Like our exploration phase may be later than others because we didn't
Yes.
one, maybe we didn't have the confidence to do so, and two, we didn't really have the access to do so, and some people still don't have the access to do so. But like, yeah, where other people always had the resources and time and like affordability to be able to like try all different fun styles and the trendy things. Like
Hmm.
we can't always buy the trendy things. Like that's not possible for us. And so
Yep.
if now finally it is and you like want to try all the things, like go for it. It's definitely never too late to like explore. So, a little bit more on the practical side for dressing like your silhouette or your body type. Can you give a few tips for like the most common body types? Like if you're pear shaped or apple shaped or like I don't know what other the fruit shapes are. Maybe some pieces to look for or like styles to try. If someone's like, I don't even know if that would look good on me. What are your pointers there?
I also like, I'm not sure how to feel about the fruit labels for body
Yeah.
types. I feel like maybe we can, and also just with like plus sizes, something that I've really realized, I think I knew this before starting this work, but like really realized doing this is there is so much diversity and body shape in plus sizes, like different parts, like and proportions are just like so much different than they would be on someone who's like smaller, who doesn't have as much of that variety. And so there are just like so many amazing ways that plus size bodies can look and like different proportions that plus size bodies can have. And so I think that we need a more expansive way to kind of like, or
Right.
like represent, describe different things. Exactly. And so I think that when it comes to shape, though, it's really about understanding the proportions of things. And so I think that like when you can understand your body in terms of those proportions, you can utilize clothing to also work with those proportions. So like I'll use myself as an example. And again, there's so many other examples because of just like all the ways that like bodies can be proportioned and can look. But I am somebody who has like, I guess like a pear shape. Like I have like a smaller bust. I don't have like a huge bust. I'm like a B or C cup. I have a more defined waist, and then my hips are big. Like I have like a bigger than usual like rear end. So like that for me like tells me information about, my shape. And so for that shape, I know high waisted is going to always going to be a great option for me because of the way that it's going to define my natural waist, and typically wide leg as well. I know that a lot of times plus size people are a little bit like hesitant to add extra fabric. But what happens is when you have on like a wide leg or a straight leg, or maybe like more of like a boyfriend or a mom, like a looser style that's not a skinny pant, it actually like creates a more proportional kind of like illusion to your body, just in terms of like how things can be feel more streamlined. And then because again like having a smaller bust, sometimes it's helpful for me to add like extra accessories, like wear an open neckline or like add some like fun accessories to draw attention upwards. I know that for like jackets or for cardigans, things like that, I tend to like ones that are going to be more cropped, that are going to hit me at my natural waist, because a jacket or a sweater or something that like either hits me right at the widest part of my hip or like goes too far over my hip, for me I'm just not going to feel like I it's going to like look proportional in the way that I want it to. And so I think that it's kind of like identifying where the like what those proportions are, and then how to balance those out in a way.
Yeah, it's so true that plus size bodies are like so many more shapes than thinner
Yeah,
bodies because there's so many different places that we can carry our weight and like
totally.
add dimension. I know one thing you talk about a lot, and I love this because I look at my own closet and realize that I have these without even like realizing it, I guess, is outfit formulas. How did you come up
Yes.
with outfit formulas and how would you like encourage people to find their own?
Yeah, I love outfit formulas. I feel like they're such a huge part of the like whole how can I make getting dressed easier thing. I've loved outfit formulas and I've been using them for years. And I don't remember where I first heard about them, but I know I've been hearing about them more, which makes me really happy because I think that they just make so much sense. And essentially it's just a combination of like wardrobe pieces that can be replicated. So an outfit formula can be as simple as you want it to be or as intricate as you want it to be, but the whole point is to be able to identify like this is an outfit that I wear often, and I really like this outfit. This feels like me. This feels like my personal style. And I know I can replicate this with like a ton of times with the items in my closet. So, like, an example I use all the time that I love is like a t-shirt and a trouser combination. Like, I love that outfit formula. Typically for me, I'm going to do that with a sneaker. I'm just like a sneaker person. I think also like a loafer could look great. There's like a ton of shoe options you could do, but like that type of outfit feels so me. Trousers are such a key item in my wardrobe. I have lots of trousers. I love t-shirts. I love graphic t-shirts. I love like plain t-shirts. I have plenty of those. I could literally make a month's worth of outfits only using my t-shirts and trousers easily. And that's like a formula I come back to all the time. And what I love about it is that sometimes when we look at our wardrobe as a whole, I think it can feel really overwhelming to be like, where do I start? I think that if you know the formulas that work great for you, you then don't have to like consider your entire wardrobe. You can start with that formula and then just decide, okay, what's the trouser? What's the t-shirt that I want to wear today? And then from there, are we doing a sneaker? Are we doing a loafer? What's happening here? You can add on an extra layer, whether it's like a denim jacket or a blazer if you want to like keep it dressy, or a cardigan, like you can like play with those extra layers. But I feel like I have like 4 to 5 outfit formulas that really feel like they showcase my personal style that I can always come back to. So I have like t-shirts and trousers. I love like a button up in jeans. That's another one that I am just like such a fan of. I love a t-shirt and jeans with a blazer, like a t-shirt and a blazer in general, but especially with jeans. I love doing like a dress and sneakers, just like a really easy dress that I can throw on with a pair of sneakers. And then sometimes when I want to be a little bit dressier, I'll do like a slip dress with an oversized blazer in sneakers. And to me, that feels like I feel good in it. I feel dressy, but I still feel really comfortable. And so just having those whenever I'm like, I don't know what to wear, I always come back to one of those and just decide what formula feels best for this date night, for this occasion, for this work event, etc. And then again, just insert the pieces. And it's honestly just makes, again, just getting dressed so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of my go-to outfit formulas is like graphic tee and maxi skirt, or like mini maxi
Yes.
skirt. Sometimes it's patterned, sometimes it's not. So another big question, where the heck do you shop? Would you encourage people to shop for basics first, or like
Mhm.
the fun pieces? If we're rebuilding a wardrobe, where would you start?
That's such a good question. I think that like identifying kind of what your key items are. So, what are the items that you know are your go-tos, that you know are going to make up those formulas that can be your go-tos? That's a really, really good place to start. And then kind of taking inventory of what you have. Like for you, is it denim? Are they trousers, dresses, skirts, button downs, leggings, t-shirt? Like it can be anything, but like what are those items that really make up the formulas that you feel like are going to represent your personal style, that you're going to feel great in, and also give you plenty of options for mixing and matching. I actually just posted recently on Instagram and TikTok kind of this like summer essentials wardrobe capsule, and it's basically like clothing types that all can layer and mix and match together. But I still think something like that, and the way that like they all mix and match together, can be a really great place to start to identify like what are those pieces that I want to have in my wardrobe that I will, be making the most out of, that I will gravitate towards, that I want to will be wearing all the time. Identifying which ones you have in your wardrobe, which ones you don't. And I think from that point can start an intention for how you're shopping. I think that shopping intentionally is very important, especially to try to avoid the whole like, I have all these clothes and I don't know what to do with them, or like I'm feeling kind of like an identity crisis when it comes to my personal style. I think that like having a plan, having a strategy for how you shop is really important. And this can be a great way to get started with that. And so if you are shopping for new pieces, I would totally start with the basics. And then I think that like finding those really special like personality pieces can be great things to start to incorporate in. And I think the other thing when it comes to your wardrobe is like this very much is like it is a journey in terms of building it, like I think that like wardrobes are things that we like spend time curating. We like, it's not always going to be I'm going to buy everything in this one shopping haul and then I'm going to be done. That can absolutely be a way to do that. We can like make that happen. And I think it can feel more special as you like maybe collect things from season to season and like over time have this wardrobe that's like a reflection of you and your personality and clothes that you've really put thought and intention into bringing into your wardrobe. And so that I think in terms of the shopping approach, that's one I like to take. In terms of where to shop, oh my gosh, I actually do have a lot, and I need to give the disclaimer that because I only work with plus sizes and I'm a plus size person, these are all like plus size focused places, although some of them are like have like a range as well. I think on in terms of like accessible options, I honestly love Target and Old Navy. I think that like a lot of times for folks who might be more on like, you know, they're not ready or they're not in a point where they're wanting to bring in investment pieces yet or able to bring in investment pieces yet. I still think you can shop really intentionally with items from Walmart too. Like I found great pieces at Walmart. I think the key is looking again, making sure like the fit feels good, making sure it aligns with your personal style, those kind of other pieces, like maybe your color palette, your silhouettes, etc. And just making sure you feel really good about them. I think if you like put on something and you're like, well, it's 20 bucks, you know, it'll do. It's probably going to end up being one of those things that just kind of like sits there or like doesn't get a ton of wear. So like even though it's Target and Old Navy, still be picky about it. But like I found a lot of things for clients like when shopping there that are 100% cotton, that like are a great linen blend, like things that are going to be breathable and things that like I've had for years. So like I mean some of my like key like button downs or trousers staple pieces have been from those places. So I think that's a great those are like great options to check out. I am such a like stan of Universal Standard. I'm like I think that they're absolutely incredible and I think that one of the many reasons is their size range. They go up to a size 40. They like engineer their fit. So like they like start at a size 18. Like that's their medium because they recognize, hey, this is like the average for women in America. So this is going to be our like quote unquote average. Yeah. And then just like making sure that fit works for every size that they create and like really paying attention to like how something fits your body rather than I'm just going to scale this up and like, you know, you'll make it work. I think their quality is really fantastic. Like I say all the time how I have a client who has like t-shirts from them and she says I wear them every week, literally wash them every week and 3 years later they feel the same as when I bought them the first day, you know? So they're like those investment pieces that I think a lot of times can make up kind of the foundations of your wardrobe that you're going to be able to have for a really, really long time. I think their denim is incredible. If you've ever had issues with denim, I like highly recommend checking out Universal Standard denim. I'm just a really big fan of their stuff overall. I think their quality is great. I think their fit is great.
They do like a size exchange thing, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. So they have their Fit Liberty program and they have select items within that like category where if your size I believe it's where your if your size changes within a year of purchasing, you're able to swap out your old size for your new size at no cost, like the same item. And I think that's pretty incredible. Like that
Yeah.
like who is doing that?
Yeah,
Like
I think that's amazing because whether like you have goals to change your body or I know I used my weight used to fluctuate so much that like
mhm.
I couldn't think to and buy those investment pieces because I wasn't sure how long I was going to be that size. And like to
Yeah.
if you're looking to get something that you're like my body is just really changing a lot right now, like look into their Fit Liberty program for sure.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So Universal Standard, a big one for sure. I love Big Bud Press, especially for their bottoms. Like my clients who have bellies have had really great experiences with their pants and especially like the pleating and just like how they fit. I think they have options that come in a ton of colors. There's a lot of versatility there. I love Nooworks, especially if you're someone who likes pattern and color. I think that they're like a really, really cool brand to check out. Nettle Studios is one that I recommend often, especially for their linen pieces. I also like, I have a client who recently bought a pair of their linen pants and is just like obsessed with how comfortable they are, but like how good they look. And she's like, I can wear them working from home. I feel like I can dress them up to go out. And to me, that is such an ideal combination. If something is like comfortable enough to work from home all day in and like looks good enough to be able to dress up, like that's just ideal. I love Octopied Mind for t-shirts, for graphic t-shirts especially. They're a really cool woman-owned business who like designs in-house all of their graphic t-shirts, and they're just like a very cool company. I love them. Hey Mavens for undergarments, they go up to a 10X, and they have like specialty sizes like in between. They're just like, again, a very considerate company of bodies and different shape bodies. I love Friday Flamingo, especially for their dresses. They're based out of New Zealand. They go up to a size US 30, but I've typically been able to size down in some of their dresses. So I feel like there's even more like range there. I do like Eloquii. I usually shop Eloquii a lot for like blazers or outerwear. I've had success with them. And I think sometimes for like some more trendy pieces, they can do those well. I've gotten some trousers from Eloquii that I've liked. And then I also want to shout out like jewelry. I know like jewelry as a plus size person can be tough. And so Chouette Designs and Zaleska Jewelry. I can also like send you this list if that
Yeah,
would be helpful for you to
I'll
have.
put them in
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
in case for
Um,
spelling purposes.
Totally, totally. They both like purposefully make jewelry for like rings up to a size 15 or 16, like bracelets and necklaces and extended sizes, like really like thoughtful of plus size shoppers. And then I also want to shout out a couple secondhand places because I know there's like a lot of us who like to shop secondhand. So Ethical Bodies, The Plus Bus, Plus Size Thrift, SF, Proud Mary Fashion. I know there's a ton of them, but all of those focus specifically on like secondhand and vintage for plus sizes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been wanting to shop the Plus Plus, and there's a place in New York, I think it's called,
Plus Brooklyn.
yeah, Plus
Yeah,
Brooklyn. I need
yeah.
to go there. I was gonna go the last time I was in New York, and I want to like go and meet all the people there. I follow them on Instagram and like look at all their stories and things. They're
It's
great.
so cool. I went when I was in New York a couple years ago, and I got some really beautiful vintage pieces, and that was just so awesome. Like I'm just such a sucker for like cool vintage stuff, and it's so hard to find, like you go thrifting with your thin friends, and it can be really hard to find, like the cool stuff that they're able to find. So I'm so grateful for anybody out there who's like sourcing, especially for plus sizes, and just makes it so much easier.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely check it out next time you're in town.
yeah, I will for sure. That is so helpful. There's so many brands I haven't even shopped at, so I'm like, ooh, I'm like getting ideas. Okay, so we've touched on where to shop, how to shop, what to look for, colors, outfit formulas. Are there any last pieces of advice you have for someone starting fresh in their closet?
Yeah, I think that, I think we've touched on this a little bit, but just remembering that this is like a journey, so like giving yourself that patience, again, that grace as you move through it. I think also personal style is, you mentioned this in the last, the first part of this 2 episode series about like confidence being a muscle that you build, that you put time and energy into it to grow it. And I think personal style is exactly the same. I think that sometimes we might look at other people who seem to like have a great personal style and think like, oh, this just comes so easily and naturally to them. I'm not like that. Like it doesn't come that way to me. And the reality is that like it can be that, like it's like maybe they have always been that way, but also there's a really good chance this is something that they just put time and energy into, and they're like constantly kind of crafting and like getting clearer and clearer on for themselves. And so just know that this is absolutely a muscle that can be built if you work it and put time and energy into it. So I love to set aside time to just like play in my closet, to be creative, to put outfits together, like with no intention to go anywhere, but just to like see what I create. Like I was very much the little girl who had like her dress up box and just like loved to play dress up and like put things on and just like do her thing. And I think that like honoring that now is so important because like getting dressed in your personal style can absolutely just be like a thing. Like it does not have to be the most important thing to you. It does not have to be a creative outlet for you whatsoever. And I think that if you're someone who really has that like desire to feel really connected to your personal style, to be really expressive, really creative with it, that is so incredibly possible. It's just putting the time into it. Like don't discount yourself. I think that like there's so much possibility there, and just like give yourself like put time and energy and attention into it, and I think it'll go a really long way.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you so much, Katie. All that you've said is like so helpful. I'm just like sitting here like, yes, keep talking, tell me more. So I hope this is helpful. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, so I feel like TikTok and Instagram are definitely the places I am most. My handle is at Katie is Winnen, Winnen, on both of those platforms. I am accepting new clients, and so I feel like there are ways to, I have like links on my pages that will like lead to forms and information with all of that if that's something that you're interested in. But I'm also always trying to just share as much like I want my social media pages to be as much of a resource as possible.
Yes, her pages are so full of awesome information. I feel like I save every single video that you post because I'm like, oh yeah, that's so good. So go check her out for sure. Give her a follow. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Katie. It was so helpful.
Oh my gosh, this I like loved having this conversation with you. I'm so honored that you invited me on. Thank you so much.
Ah, that was such a good conversation. I'm so glad that Katie was able to join for this episode. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like and save and leave a review and do all of the things. Share this with a friend. And if you missed episode 1, go back and listen to that as I give some more tips on confidence and cleaning out your closet and body image and all the things, the mindset side of things. So happy shopping, happy styling, and I'll talk to you soon.